Welcome to the battleground of the gods.
Welcome, challengers, to Battleground of the Gods, a special episode with me, your host Riggs, and brand new co-host to Bot G, Sir Blaise McDaddy.
It's me. It's an ASMR episode. You guys weren't ready.
Okay, no, we're done. I can't do that long.
No, dude, if I had like decent breathing, it would be fine. But my lung capacity ain't there right now.
Yeah, I still have like somewhat COVID lung. That's the one thing that happens anytime I get sick is my lungs take like 2 weeks after I'm done getting sick to like fully recover. So I'm still like like when I'm trying to do something, you know, sometimes.
Yeah, I ran up the stairs today in between classes, and my supervisor or the head of the school was like, "You're out of breath," and I'm like, "Yeah, man." And she goes, "Well, like you don't sound good." I was like, "Yep, but we're here and we're teaching, so that's what we're gonna do."
So I want you to mind your own fucking business, right?
But you know, we're here to talk about Worlds. It's getting close, dude.
Yes, sir. As of recording, it is Tuesday evening / night. I guess it's more nighttime now. It's a late night episode. You get just me and Blaise talking SPL. We didn't do a full-on prediction episode like we normally do, so I was like, hey, I still want to talk SPL. Blaise watches SPL more than the other co-hosts, so I was like,
I live in SPL. Like if I'm at home, SPL's on. Even if I can't watch it, I will carry my phone around and just have it on to listen to.
Oh yeah, I do that at work too. I'll just do like the audio only. I'll just have Hazer and I'll just imagine what he's doing. And I'm imagining when he puts his foot behind his head and just imagining all the weird mouth sounds I hear sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I can't even get Fro to like look at patch notes, let alone watch SPL. Depp watches it occasionally. Nev probably is the most consistent, but she likes the Titans, so I can't talk to her.
Fun fact, you might not be able to get Fro to read patch notes, but I might have gotten him to listen to patch notes.
Oh, he'll go ahead and watch like your reviews and stuff. Yeah,
but I try to keep him short. Yeah, he's like, yo, this is sick.
Anytime we do like an episode and patch notes have come out, we'll usually touch on like a couple things, like pretty brief, and I'll go, hey Fro, did you see anything you like? He goes, nope, didn't read it.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Did you watch anything? Nope, didn't watch it.
Yeah.
All right, good talk.
Yeah, I always like it because sometimes when like you bring up the patch notes ideas, he goes, "Oh, that's a pretty good idea," and you're like, "Yeah, no, it's in the patch though." Like, and he's like, "Oh, yeah. Sick." I'm excited, dude. Not just Worlds, but we got like a new map coming for Conquest, and that's gonna be kind of sick too.
Yes, sir. I know me and you talked about that a little bit. I guess we can start with that. The Season X. I'm a big fan. They're calling it Season X. Season X keynote.
I think I saw
new Conquest map.
Aggro call it Season 10. I was like, absolutely not. You call it by its proper name. Go back to the Season X stuff. Like that makes it better. But maybe I misread. Maybe I did misread it. But I'm excited, dude. I think me and you talked about it a little bit. I think Odin's Onslaught definitely was a setup to kind of test some mechanics that were coming to the Conquest map. Vio plays Guild Wars 2, and I introduced him a good bit to it. But like they have a mode that they put stuff in to like test stuff and then put it in the live game. And I think this is a similar situation, or at least I hope so. Like I would love like portals and jungle grass to be on the map, but I guess we'll just see.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you talked about it. I don't see why they would put so much effort into all those new assets for that just an adventure. Like there's got to be more to it than that. So like whether it's they're gonna take a couple more mechanics from it, like you said, like the grass or like maybe the portals and stuff, or just maybe like the art aesthetic as a whole. I feel like there's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah, right? It can't just be, oh, we just want to make the adventure. I feel like you don't put that much dev time into that adventure and make such a large map without testing.
If you're not
stuff.
going to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not going to use it for something else too. Like
I was going to say, the only thing I kind of hope doesn't happen is, those little buy areas that are in the map?
Oh yeah,
I
no,
hope those aren't
please
those.
don't do that.
Please don't do that. That's my only suggestion. Don't give us Chang'e passive on the map, please. That would be detrimental. Which
I forgot to pull up the world schedule, to be honest. That reminds me. I have all the brackets. I don't have the schedule.
Oh, I have the schedule too somewhere. Hold on. No, I closed that tab because I was like, oh, we're just I don't need to look at it. Unfortunately,
That's fine. It's fine. This isn't about that. This is about worlds and predictions. And speaking of worlds, can't have worlds without qualifying teams. And we just had the final qualification. I forget what it's called. It's called group stage, right?
I think so. I call it SWC
land.
qualifiers because it just makes more sense to me, but I think it is called like group stage land or something like that.
Yeah, we already had 4 teams that qualified back in playoffs for Phase 3. This was to determine the remaining 4 teams that will qualify. 4 SPL teams. Is it 4? Yeah, 4 SWC teams. So 8 teams for 4 spots. We have I guess we'll just go through the top of the bracket down. So we have the Titans going through pretty easily. Qualifying.
Yeah, they had
played
trouble.
2 SEC teams.
They had trouble with one of the SEC teams, but they
had a little trouble with the Hounds.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry about that. The Hounds are gone.
Yeah,
they got put out in the doghouse.
And then the Hounds actually did look pretty good. They were the number 1 NA SEC team, and they did put up some good fights in their matches. I'll get into what are their matches in a minute.
Yeah.
And then the second seed EU SEC team, the Highland Ravens, led by none other than young Kenneth adapting himself. He's retired. He's not retired. Now he's going back to Worlds. They qualified over the Hounds and the Valhalla Valkyries, who I want to take a quick minute and just say that was probably the most embarrassing performance I've ever seen out of an SPL level team, on LAN at least, in a long time.
Riggs, how do you leave Fountain and you don't buy items, bro? Like, you don't buy pot shirt, you don't buy boots. You know, I can be blamed for that, but you just don't buy items at all. I mean,
you're referencing Benny Q, young Benny Q, who loves to just save his mid pick. I mean, this is a team decision, but save mid pick for last and just say, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna play this game, even if it's not necessarily, you know, quote unquote meta, which, you know, you don't have to be a meta slave, but yeah, there's some times where I think you should reel it in a little bit. And Benny Q, I forget which game it was, but it was against Ravens, right?
Yes.
And in that set, and he walks out of base, and you know, the casters are talking about matchups and all this and all that. All of a sudden, they look down, and they see Benny Q playing Uller mid, does not have any items, and you know, they're like they do the classic caster thing, which I have to give him credit for, because they have to be like, they can't really just call him an idiot. Like, they kind of have to be like, well, maybe there's a reason. You know, maybe he's saving up for this. And then Mifflin kind of has a realization. He's like, no, there's literally no tier. Even if you're going to do that, you just buy a tier 1. Like, surely. Then I think Benny Q has the moment where he realizes it and he backs at like level 2. And it's just like, from then on, like, everyone's rooting against the Valks at that point. It's like, how the fuck are you the SPL team? You already lost to the Hounds 2-0. They didn't win a single game the entire lane.
I think what's crazy,
obviously they lost both sets, but they didn't win a single game, is
this team started to look better over time, right? And then phase 3, like, it's like they stumbled like hard, and they've never lost a set to the Hounds ever. And the biggest moment, they can't clutch it up and do it. And I think what's unfortunate here is the Hounds had nothing to play. Like, you know, I guess like the Hounds have no pressure. They're just like, I'm going to play the game. You know, hopefully we're qualified for Worlds. If not, we're getting experience. So maybe we can try to run for an SPL spot next season. And Valks just dropped the ball. Just absolutely dropped the ball. And it's not just Benny Q. You have Aquarius, who ran Ao Kwong full damage solo.
Oh, God.
Goes 7-0 and then just gets obliterated the rest of the game. I don't even remember what his final stat line was. I think it was like 7-8 something. It just, Kierme got obliterated, dude. Oh my God. There's one he played Osiris. He went like 1-9 and he was trying. I mean, like, it's not to talk crap about Kirmi. It's this like, he would go in and there was nobody around like to back him up. It just didn't seem like any of them were on the same page. Like calls were being made, but the follow-up wasn't there. So it's one of these moments that I kind of wish we had comms to know what was going on sometimes. Obviously, I understand why they don't like to do that, especially in this situation. Like, no one wants their comms when they're getting just smacked, thrown out there. But it would be nice to kind of hear, like, some of the calls that are being made, maybe give some justifications for their positioning. Or why they, Kirmi decides, I'm diving in 1v5, and my team's, like, still 5 seconds out. Like, was there a plan happening? I don't know. It was rookie mistakes. And that's kind of the nicest way to put it, I feel like.
Yeah, there was definitely a disconnect. And whether that's nerves, whether that's just, I don't know, you just didn't show up, whatever. I don't even know, like, what excuse or what reasoning to give for it. But, I mean, you're the SPL representative and you don't win a single game against. You didn't even have to play another SPL team. You played the 2 SEC teams, and one of them was a second place EU team with Angry playing on ping and a sub that hadn't played with the team yet in support.
And change roles.
And
don't forget that he changed roles a month ago to play support.
Yeah.
And shout out to Angry, dude. That guy's cracked. To be playing on ping and playing as well as he was, I mean, insanity. I don't even want to think about what he'd be like on LAN.
Yeah, and the games weren't even really that close either. That's, I guess, the sad part is, like,
yeah,
it's one thing maybe, like, you can't really get too upset, I guess, if they're, like, super close games, maybe, like, 1 or 2 mistakes cost the game, like, that shit happens. But, like, to get blown out, really, by the SEC teams and not really put up that much of a fight, it's a little sad, I think.
Didn't they have an 11,000 gold lead in one of the games and lost? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I'm not sure. It might have been in the Hound set because the Raven set wasn't that close.
No, Raven set wasn't close.
On both games.
I think it was.
I think there was a really long game. There was a really long game in the Hound set. I think where there was like. I think it was the Alquan game.
Yeah, I think they had like an
super
11,000 gold lead and they threw it. I mean, the only thing worse that I've seen in recent memory is for sports people is TCU getting beat 65-7 in the college football championship. Okay. I put this on the same level. The Valks just didn't show up. I think the only person I feel bad for is I feel bad for Sharks, dude. I feel bad for their freaking coach.
I feel a little bad for Kirmi as well. I think the team as a whole didn't really step up the LAN. I think it's pretty obvious to say that. But I think throughout, like you said, phase 3, they started to struggle a little bit, and even like leading up into this LAN. I'm not like the smartest mind in competitive Smite, but I think I'm able to observe and see that I think they put too much pressure on Kirmi on this team to do shit. Aqua isn't really a dominant laner. Benny Q is just a wild card. You never know what Benny Q you're gonna get, and Wowie doesn't really do anything except for AFK farm and show up in team fights. So then it's really up to Kirmi and Gamma. And Gamma, I like Gamma. I think he's good, but I don't think he's on the same level as the other SPL supports, really. He's had his moments, but I think Kirmi, if Kirmi didn't, that team lived and died by Kirmi, and they put so much pressure on Kirmi to like just create space, create, fights on the map, create good plays. And if he didn't start off great, or if he didn't do that, they just didn't do anything in the games.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
And then,
I think
God forbid Kirmi has a bad game.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't even exist.
Yeah, I'll and we're gonna reiterate back to jungle having a hard time and like a team looking bad here in a little bit. But I don't know, man. Like it's like you have BennyQ, and BennyQ's a good player, but like it's like they thought that it. I guess the way I perceived it is they came in thinking like, oh hey, we're just gonna win and make it to Worlds. And that's not what happened. Like I think they got literally rattled once they lost the first game, and then it's like a scramble at that point. And they're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do to try to counteract that. It just didn't work out. So They were the first SPL team eliminated. I don't know where to go beyond that.
It's unfortunate too, because like this team showed promise at certain points in the season. Like they were really bad at the beginning of the year, which that was kind of expected, but then they kind of stepped it up. They were pretty decent in phase 2. They put up some good fights, and you had hope that they're like by the end of the year they were going to put it together. They might not win Worlds, but they would at least be in contention. They would put up a good fight, kind of like the Scarabs of last year, where they were kind of hovering around bottom, and then all of a sudden Worlds comes around, they make a little bit of a run, and you have hope for that team. And you thought the same thing for the Valks this year, and then all of a sudden they just completely collapsed. But not to take away from the Ravens, they played their fucking ass off this whole set or this whole tournament.
I think Ravens have the best counter engage.
Game.
I think they had the best counter engage in last week's sets. Their counter engage is insane. They literally baited people in at fire and just blew them up. They just said bye. Enjoy the gray screen.
I think Ravens too, for almost more than any other team. I think they're such a momentum based team. Like if you get Coast, Viporish Coast, if you're not familiar with Viporish Coast, that dude will gun it down in ADC no matter who he's going up against, no matter who he's playing, and he will taunt you the entire game and laugh at you the entire game. And if you make one mistake, he's gonna let you know about it. It doesn't matter who you are. He'll go up against anybody and do that. Adapting, God forbid adapting gets rolling, you already know what he can do. And that's what happened on both of the sets that they played to qualify. Is Coast popped off in one set, adapting started popping off in the other set, and once those two get going, I mean the rest of the team just follows suit, and next thing you know, they're in Worlds.
Yeah. After that, we had who else? Oh wait, Hex Mambo qualified. Like they just
hell yeah.
Them.
Hex Mamba.
Dude, I have to talk about the fact that, and this is probably the only play I need to talk about from their sets, because like everything was just amazing. But E-Chrome is like 1v2ing or 1v3ing in lane. He's dodging and weaving. He throws on the Nikes. No one's touching him. They throw out a Xbalanque ult. They're like, oh, surely we're going to get him now. And blink, Johnny comes in and deleted Vote in one of the games. I was like, holy crap. Like, there was no time for Vote to react. I don't even think Vote could press a key in time to save his life because Johnny just disintegrated that man on Heapwa. Johnny looked really good and not on his usual feast or famine, run it down junglers. We're talking like he played Hebo. Oh God, now it's slipping my mind, but like he didn't play Loki at all. There was not a single Loki game. I mean, he looks good the entire time. I mean, Deathwalker, the man's in a suit putting people out to their funerals, I guess. I don't know what to say. I mean, they just looked good. They looked like an SPL team. They have Trix tanks this time. They're not using a sub like they did last LAN, and you could tell like last LAN they looked good, but they looked
last LAN
really damn good this
Which
time.
SPL team did they beat last LAN? They beat an SPL team last LAN with Rotwin playing support.
Yeah, they did. They took a game off of Dragons.
Who it was.
They took a game off of Dragons. I think they beat Scarabs. Or did they beat Warriors?
They beat Scarabs, yeah, that's who they beat.
Yeah.
They beat Scarabs.
And they took a game off Dragons.
Yeah. And yeah, this is the first time we've seen Mambo on LAN. And I mean, anybody that's watched SPL and kind of hangs around the scene, we've all heard rumblings that this team, if they really wanted to commit to it, they could be SPL pretty easily and probably be at least top 4, top 5 team in the SPL. For whatever reason, they have their own reasons. They don't want to commit to the move and live in America, which is fine. So we only get to see them at LANs, which kind of sucks. But when we do see them together, it's really fun to watch because they're a really, really good team. And this is the first time we're really seeing Johnny on LAN. This is the first time we're seeing E-Chrome. Well, you saw E-Chrome last LAN, but E-Chrome on LAN, he's really kind of the unknown player, I guess you would say, on this team. Unless you really pay attention to like the EU scene as a whole. The other names, I'm pretty sure you've probably all heard. But yeah, this team, I'm a big fan of Hex Mamba. I think they're a really easy team to root for. And they also are just really good at Smite.
And I think it works to their advantage that they're
should.
not in the SPL. I think it does. I think you not having as much games against the SPL teams is a disadvantage in the sense of you're not playing at that level, but you're also not showing your strats every week. Like, you're just stomping SEC, which is what they did all season. They just stomped SEC, and then they get here, and then they can start pulling out stuff that they haven't had to show the rest of the season. And I think that does work to their advantage to some extent. But they are an easy team to root for. I am not happy about their matchup. The first round of qualifiers, but it is what it is. It's all good. I'll live with it. Our first round of SWC. And then the last team to make it was Oni Warriors, dude.
Yeah.
The Oni homies.
I don't want to say barely, because they did beat the Scarabs pretty convincingly, I would say. But this is one of those teams where you never know what version of the Oni Warriors you're going to get. And that's always scary to try to root for them, because at some points they can look like they're super dominant and they're a top 4 team, and then they lose to the Mambo.
Yeah.
And
you're like,
like
oh,
I said, Mambo's a
not.
really good team. Mambo's a great team, but you are in the SPL and you play against SPL teams every week. And I wouldn't say you should win that set, but you're favored to win that set. You're the SPL representative.
Exactly.
And they kind of just got their ass kicked.
They did. They kind of got mollywopped.
Yeah. But they do manage to qualify. So, the World Championship bracket. We have Camelot Kings, which my favorite team, versus the Highland Ravens. And before we started recording, you were mentioning that almost every set basically has a cool or like unique storyline to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no exception. You have the Ravens versus the Kings. You have Adapting versus Twig for like the millionth time. Almost an entirely EU matchup. I think probably outside of Yarkor, right? Yarkor is the only NA. But yeah, basically it's kind of like the old. If you miss the NA versus EU region kind of things, you like the EU style of play. This is definitely going to be more of that style of play for this set, I would say. Kings Ravens, look for a long set, objective play. Genetics, big brain, trying to do some big brain plays. I don't know what your thoughts on this set are, but I'm a big fan of seeing Adapting versus Twig again. I think it's going to be fun.
I'm excited for that matchup. I think Kings take this. I don't think it's going to be hard for the Ravens to win this set. It's going to have to be one of those situations where they drag the games long, which is easy to do with EU play. And then they counter engage on like a fire or something and win off that. But like, they're going to have to deal with the macro play that the Kings present. And the macro play the Kings present is almost unmatched in the SPL. They're just good. And I think now that they have Yarkor in ADC, Yarkor runs it down, dude. Like, that guy wants to fight. He wants to body you, and he wants to get to team fights and just W key win the game. So it makes me a little bit worried about Highland Ravens duo lane, because Yarkor genetics, we saw it the last LAN. They kind of just popped off, and that's when the Yarkor was new to the team. They've had some time now. I think the Kings might be a force to be reckoned with, and I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to do much about it. I mean, I would love to see the Ravens take a game and like at least make it interesting. I don't think this is going to happen. I think the Kings should win 2-0.
Yeah, I've got Kings 2-0. I do think that it'll be close. I don't think they'll be like blowouts by any means, but for ADC matchup like you're talking about, I mean, it is Yarkor who likes to run it down, but it's also Coast.
Yeah.
You have Coast versus Yarkor.
I mean, I think it's going to be a good matchup. I worry more about the support.
Matchup.
The support matchup is what I'm more worried about.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a few individual matchups in this set that are going to be fun to watch, but as a whole, I think the Kings are just a better team, and they should just 2-0. I don't think it'll be like a blowout.
Do we know?
No, Angry is still going to play from Romania. God. He can't get a visa.
Yeah, that's I mean, I can't say anything because he looked good last week. So I mean, like, the problem is Texas server is a little bit further away.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I don't know if it was like a joke of people saying that he might like fly to a different country because it's he just can't come to the U.S. There's visa restrictions between certain countries. Romania is one of those countries that he needs a visa. So I'm not sure if he'll like fly to a different country to get better ping. I'm not sure if that's the case.
That would be wild.
What's going on?
What a storyline, dude. If
I've
he
heard
does
rumblings that might happen.
Oh my god. I don't know. I'm excited. I think the Kings are really, really good. And the Ravens didn't necessarily have to play that type of team to get into SWC. But, adapting. You can't rule that man out. He does some magical plays, to say the least.
You never know what's gonna happen. I'm really excited that's gonna be the first set of Worlds because I think that'll have some really cool moments. And then we have the second set of Worlds. I'll let you take this one because I think you're a Bolts fan. If I remember correctly.
I'm a Bolts fan, and let me tell you, when Mambo fell to us because no one else wants to face them, I said, well, this is gonna make or break us, and there's not gonna be any in between. I think this matchup is heavily based off of the jungle play. I think it comes down to what happens between Lasbro and Johnny. Can Lasbro slow him down? If Lasbro can slow him down, I think the Bolts have a chance. If Lasbro cannot slow down Johnny, if they cannot keep Johnny under control, this is going to get out of hand very quickly. I'm excited to see Deathwalker versus Baskin. I think that's going to be sick. I hope Jake doesn't do any crazy stuff like he likes to do sometimes where he just like walks into, 4 enemies and dies late in the game. But I do worry that if the Bolts don't win game 1, it will go 2-0 Mambo. I do have a feeling that if Bolts win this set, that is a huge momentum swing for them. It allows them to get some of that EU play that the Kings do. And I think that does give them a better chance against the Kings. I think that's one thing that this does help the Bolts with if they're able to get through this match. But man, is Mambo good. I think this might be the best set of the day.
Easily, I think.
I think it's the best set of the day. I think this probably goes 3 games. I think the Bolts really need a 2-0 because the problem is, I think if the Bolts win and Mambo wins game 2, I think Mambo wins game 3 because I think Mambo has done a very good job adapting their playstyle to other teams, as we've seen the past 2 lands. And I'm worried for the Bolts, man. We left first round last year, and I would like to not have that happen 2 years in a row, but I don't know. I will say this. A lot of people have said Barracuda is a passive ADC player, blah, blah, blah. Last land, dude, he wanted to play aggro picks and he wanted to run it down. I did enjoy seeing that different style of play because I think that just added some versatility to their comps. He was first picking Danza. So, we'll see how it goes. I think I'm not going to count the Bolts out because I think a lot of people are as soon as they got matched against Mambo. But I sincerely think this is the best set of the day. I think it goes 3 games. I hope it's Bolts. I think
it's easily the best set.
I hope it's Bolts, but I have a bad feeling.
Bolts to me are like a better version of the Warriors, where you never know what version you're gonna get. I do think the worst version of the Bolts is still better than the worst version of the Warriors, but like they're just such a weird kind of like inconsistent team. Sometimes they'll look super, super good. Sometimes they'll just look like they don't know. Like Ven and Lasbro will just be like clueless, I feel like. And
it happens on LAN. They save that for LAN. And that's what worries me.
Yeah.
LAN's when they look bad, like consistently. I'm not about that.
Also, think about this too for a second. Imagine the beginning of season 9, right? And we're like, yo, Worlds is so far away, but it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be so many good matchups. Imagine thinking we're gonna get a Baskin versus Deathwalker lane in Worlds for quarters.
Wild, dude.
Like
wild.
If you told me that was gonna happen at the beginning of the year, I would have been like, no fucking shot, dude.
No,
like,
it's good.
No way.
I think that's the one thing though, is like the matchups across the board here. Like it doesn't matter which role. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Out of curiosity, I kind of want to go through roll by roll just for because I think this is going to be the closest set of the day. I kind of want to go roll by roll, see where we give advantages. Do you want to do that?
Sure, I'm down.
We'll starting solo. We got Deathwalker versus Baskin.
Oh god, dude. I love Baskin. But when you watch earlier in the year when Deathwalker gets that this insane fearless that he didn't even expect to get, I don't know if you can like discount that man. Like he did a lot of work. I do think I have to give it to Deathwalker. I think I just have to.
I also go with Deathwire. You can't go against him. He was wearing a full suit. And just dominating. Like,
yeah.
Next up, we have Lasbra versus Johnny in the jungle.
Oh, God, dude.
I would take Lasbra. I think it's really close. I think they have a really similar God pool, too. Like, they both can play Hebo. They both can play some of these kind of weird picks that they both will bring out. So, I'll give the advantage to Lasbra.
I agree. I do think, but I strongly feel like this matchup is very much on can they slow down Johnny? Because every time we saw Johnny get rolling, it was bad for the other team. The games where they kind of slowed Johnny down, then it was a more even game. I do think Lasbra looked really good most of the year. He kind of had a few slip-ups in phase 3, but I think with the amount of time they've had to prep up until this point, and they've got to sit and watch Mambo for the past 2 sets, so they do have an idea how they want to play. I think I do go with Lasbra here. I think his God pool can be flexed out of just feast or famine, which is a good thing. Where we've seen that a little bit with Johnny here, but I don't think they're going to let Johnny get the picks he wants. I think they're going to pick them for Lasbra and ban out the rest, if I had to guess.
Yeah, he basically only played Mercury and Hebo for the entire qualifiers. So, I mean, that's pretty easy. Ban one, pick one, or pick something that's really good into that to make them not want to pick it.
Jesus,
but
if the Bolts don't ban Mercury, I swear to everything in my being. Anytime, and if you go back, and this isn't kidding, this is like how Barracuda always gets hits by Giannis snipes, always, like he's like a magnet for it. Anytime the Bolts go against Mercury, they get bopped, dude. Like Mercury's behind tier 2 tower and duo, ulting Barracuda and just taking him off the table. I don't think that pick can get through. I think Keyblaw has counterplay. I think Mercury is a little bit harder to draft for sometimes.
Yeah. So we both take Lasbra there.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Zeros versus Venenu. I'll say this. If Zeros keeps on fucking picking Kronos and not doing anything for 30 minutes, give me Venenu all day.
Yeah, so like, I think about Zeros on picks other than Kronos, and I'm like, oh, sick, probably Zeros. But then I think about how he literally did like 6k damage in like 40-minute games last week, and I don't think there's any way you can choose Zeros over Venenu when that was a consistent thing that happened last week. And it's like, was that part of their strategy to like bait people into thinking Zeros was just going to not do damage this weekend? Like, I don't know. I think if Zeros is on like Baba Yaga,
has 3 gods in his god pool.
He might. He literally might.
Chronos, Baba, and like Freya. That's about it.
I think if he's on Baba, I think he looks really, really good. I will take Venenu here just for the fact of what we saw last week from Zeros was, I don't want to say abysmal because like they performed well and they won, but like if you're looking at mid laner damage and your support's doing more damage than you, which was consistent last weekend, it's hard for me to put faith in that matchup. I think that is the weakest point of Hex Mambo.
Yeah, he played fine, but he also didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird... it's kind of impressive that he was able to do both.
Yeah.
It's not like he played bad, but he also just didn't do anything.
He was just there. he watched Smite be played around him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, guys, that's really cool plays. Like, oh, man, we got a dub. I was just here. Like, it's weird because we know Zeros to not be that style of player, but that's what he did last weekend. And recency bias makes me believe that Venenu has to take this matchup and win it.
You think we're going to see a Venenu Sasano lock in? He's going to just solo him about like 5 times.
Oh, Jesus. Don't get me started, dude. Watching Pagon run down Venenu earlier in the season and solo him 5 times, it was like watching, TCU get beat by the Bulldogs last night. It's just nothing they could do about it. Support matchup is Trix Tanks versus Jake. And we don't have a lot to go on for SPL team or SPL games with Trix Tank. But I like Trix Tank, dude. And I'm going to take Trix Tank in the matchup.
Yeah, I think this is the same concept of the Zeros matchup where if we get the Jake that runs it down and ints at least 4 to 5 times a game, give me Trix Tank all day. If not, I would think it's a toss up.
I think it's really even.
About the same.
Sure. I used to wake up in the mornings on the weekends and just watch Trix Tank, dude. I just used to watch him play sport. The dude's really good. He's been doing it a long time. I agree. I think this is a really even matchup across the board for these two. But I think Trix Tank kind of has a little bit of an edge in the way that he's been playing last weekend, at least.
The thing I'll say about this though is that I think Jake has a God Ocean versus Trix Tank kind of has a Sobek and a Ymir.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure he has others in the locker, but he's really only showed those two. Jake's shown that he can play pretty much anything.
Hear me out.
So
we see Jake on tier this weekend.
Different. I hope not.
But what a play, dude. They're like, all right, we're not going to ban Deathwalker's tier. We're going to ban the other stuff. And Deathwalker's like, yo, I'm going to pick tier. And they're like, nah, sorry, Jake, you got it. That would be wild. I hope not, because that man just runs full movement speed, run it down. But you never know, dude. Jake's like a wild card to me in a lot of ways, because sometimes he goes to do these things where he's like, it looks like he's way out of position. And you're like, what the heck is he doing? And then he pops off and you're like, oh, okay, he just knows. But then there's other times he's wandering around. He's like, oh, there's 4 enemies. I'm dead. So I don't know. I have to edge out to Trix Tank here.
I think he definitely is just out of position. I think he just catches people off guard. They're like, why is he here? And it's I think that's the Jake special, is just being places he's not supposed to be and catching people off guard by being there. And sometimes it works and sometimes it does not work. And it looks really bad when it doesn't work.
Yeah. For ADC, it's Echrome and Barracuda, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I think this is another toss-up too.
I think
there's not a lot of data on Echrome.
There's not. Now, here's the deal. If Echrome gets Heimdall, that's a scary time, because his Heimdall is really, really good. But the way we saw Barracuda play at the last LAN, I think was different than we've seen the rest of the season. If that's the type of playstyle they're going to go for in duo lane, which I think it is really important. I think duo lane specifically, getting early control and early pressure in lane to allow you to get the scepter, allow you to get to the Draugr Pit Harpies, and so forth, I think provides a lot of farm and it kind of starts spinning your duo lane in a positive motion. If you get an early gank over there, it starts becoming a little bit harder to get back into it. I'm going to give it to Barracuda.
I will too. I think it's a little bit of a toss-up, but I also think the edge goes to Barra if I have to really choose between the two, just for tenure. We don't have a lot of data on Echrome. He's still pretty unproven. He's really the only unproven one on this team for Mambo. Everybody else has SPL experience, has been at the top of the SPL for a little bit. Echrome's kind of the only one that hasn't. And so for that, I'll give it to Barra. But for the set, I'm taking Mambo.
God, dude.
Give me the upset, baby.
Here's the thing. If the Bolts lose, I'm still going to be happy because I like Mambo. I just wish they weren't against the Bolts. That's what it comes down to. Because if a team had to beat the Bolts round 1, I'd be okay if it was Mambo. Because I do think coming into this, I think they're better than the Oni Warriors. And I think they could probably beat the Titans. So I'm not if I look at who qualified from the SWC qualifiers, I'm like, Hex Mambo was the best team coming out of that. So there's that. Obviously, the other top teams that actually got to pick who they wanted to play against, didn't want to play them for a reason. So I will say this. I do think it spins a lot of positive momentum if Bolts beat them. I think that puts a little bit of like worry in the other teams because it's like, wow, Mambo looked really good. We didn't want to play them. Bolts didn't have a choice. So I do think there's that. I'm going to go with Bolts, but I'll be disappointed, but also happy if they lose because I do like everybody on Mambo.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win. Whoever wins that set,
Yeah.
I think both teams are pretty easy to root for. So, no hard feelings, whichever team wins.
The only thing that sucks about this side of the bracket is that literally all the EU teams are on this side of the bracket. I don't like that.
Hey, you have Oni. Oni minus like Neil is EU, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true. But they don't play EU style. They just don't.
They don't really play any style.
Sometimes they just PvE you to death, and you're like, what happened? That does lead us to our next matchup, though. Yeah, Jade Dragons and Oni Warriors, dude. Oh God, this set's weird to me because like the Jade Dragons just do some really strange things, and it happens to work. And I do think it's sometimes luck. But then I look at the Oni Warriors and like you have no idea how they're gonna play, dude. Like sometimes they're popping off, sometimes they're not very good, sometimes they're okay. I think the Jade Dragons are the more consistent team. I don't know if this goes 3 games. I feel like it should go 2-0 Dragons. But like Neil Ma's not gonna want to let that happen. Like, I don't know.
So the Dragons do have the curse.
They do.
Right. They are cursed as a team. I don't want to be the one to say it, but they are definitely cursed as a team.
Yeah.
And the Warriors do have Neilma, and he does have plot armor.
He does.
So this is a lose-lose for the Dragons, in my opinion. You're cursed and you're facing Neilma in the first set.
And they chose this.
They did choose this.
They did.
Granted, it was between Warriors and Mambo, and I think I would choose Warriors as well.
Yeah, I mean, the quote was, Mambo was better when we played them. They were harder to play, so we're going to go with Oni Warriors, which is like a huge shot at Oni Warriors, by the way. But also, like, I mean, you look at this team, it's PBM, it's fine, okay. They have Scream now. They have Pagon. Why am I slipping up on ADC? Right? Pandacat, Jesus. And, you know, the big 3 of that team have played together for years, and it's like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Like, it's literally... They get far in the bracket. They get beat. Right there. They get to second place. They get beat. I worry that they're gonna do something dumb game 1, and it's gonna cost them game 1. Do some weird strat with mid and jungle, and then where Scream does like Atlas jungle or whatever, but plays in the mid most of the time, and then Pagon goes whatever assassin in mid and does jungle until like 15 minutes in the game, and they swap. Which I do think is an interesting play style, mind you. I do. But we've seen them do that in the past and they lose that first game. And I do think they have to win game 1. I think they have to win game 1. Onis, I think, could actually come back and win this set. I still think it should be 2-0 Dragons.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be a little bit of a surprise here. I'm going to take Warriors 2-1. I think it's going to be our only 3-game set of quarters, and I'm going to put my faith in the Warriors. I'm not sure. It's hard for me to say how they're going to do it. I just have a weird feeling about it.
They just are, dude.
This is going to be a great clip when Worlds is over and they get like shit stomped in 2 games. It's not even close. It's like 15-minute games, but I don't know. I just have a weird feeling that the Warriors are finally going to show up. I think mid jungle is going to be super important.
Yeah.
Pagon Scream versus Dardas and Cuvo. I think
I'm excited for that
matchup.
Be
the highlight.
Dardas is cracked, dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't dislike the Oni Warriors. I'm just saying, if I'm going off of the whole season as a whole, it should be Dragons. It just should.
Oh yeah.
But I agree.
Warriors are the hardest team to root for because they're kind of like they're kind of like the Cowboys, right? I mean, like Cowboys, they have a huge fan base. And every year you're like, maybe this is the year, maybe this is the game, but they show up and then they lose by a bajillion points and they don't do anything. Like
They're the best average
that's
team.
the Warriors.
Yep.
Yeah, they all like the Cowboys are always like, oh, our roster's loaded, we're gonna be so good this year, and then they suck it up. And same thing with the Warriors. Warriors, they have so much talent on that team. That team could potentially be the number one team in the league if like everything worked out the way it should. Yep. All those players are playing the best they can. They could probably be the best team in the league.
You know what's crazy?
And for some reason, it just haven't been.
Oni Warriors and Cowboys will continue to share that likeliness when they both get eliminated in the first round.
Nah, dude, Warriors 2-1.
Dude,
you heard it. I've got my Warriors jersey. I have a Warriors jersey and not a Kings jersey. Fun fact, because I was a big fan of the Warriors when that team first got announced, and then I was kind of waiting to see how Genetics would play. Genetics is my wild card for me, and turns out Genetics one of my favorite players.
Nice, dude.
So Kings fan since day one, obviously.
I need them to have Oni home. If they had Oni homies merch, I'd buy that just because I like the name. It's good. It's so good.
It is good.
Our last matchup of day one is Alliance Leviathans versus Tartarus Titans. This is probably my favorite clip of the draft of who you get to play, because he walks out and he goes, all right, we're gonna play Titans, and they're like, why? And he's like, Zapman told me to say it.
The Titans looked bad.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Honest.
I don't think this set's close.
No, it's not. I mean, we can keep it quick. Levi's 2-0, right?
Yeah, Levi's 2-0. If I am going to be surprised if Titans take a game off of Levi's. And not because they're a bad team. I think they've looked really good most of the year until all the shenanigans has happened with Jungle. I mean, obviously,
unfortunate situation with layers, but
yeah, I just think
they looked real bad at qualify. They still qualify, which is good. I mean, they played well enough to qualify, but I don't think it was very convincing. Like, I don't think it puts a lot of confidence in them to be able to beat Levi's.
I look at the Leviathans roster across the board, and they're just good. And I think the Titans are gonna struggle. I don't think it's gonna be close. Obviously, the Titans have Paul, and Paul can kind of will himself to victory, and like maybe that happens. We've seen it happen in the past where he just like wills his team to winning. The difference is Zapman was also on that team, so I don't know. I just think my personal feeling is Leviathans just win 2-0 and it's probably not close.
Yeah, this is probably like I said it before we started recording. This is probably the set that I would be okay if I'm not watching and I'm like doing something else with the people that are at Worlds, because I don't foresee this being a very interesting set to watch.
Yeah, if it is awesome, I don't see it, dude. I think this set is probably the biggest blowout of the day. And that's crazy for me to say when Kings are versing Highland Ravens, but I expect that to be a better set.
I expect it to be a more competitive set. So I'll let you take this from here on out because we have different brackets at this point.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I'll let you finish yours out, and then I'll finish mine out. We'll see where we end up.
So here's the deal, and you're gonna hate this, and I already know. Here's my thing: if Bolts beat Mambo, I think they have enough momentum to beat the Kings. But I think if I was doing your bracket, and Mambo wins the game against the Bolts, I think Kings,
which they will,
beat Mambo. Like, that's what's weird. Like, I think if the Bolts beat Mambo, they beat the Kings. But I think if the Kings if the Mambo beats the Bolts, I think Kings beat Mambo. And I don't know why I think that is. I don't know exactly what it is. It's not like, I'm not saying that I think the Bolts just get a lot of momentum if they win that game, because it's the team that no one wanted to face. And I think that's a huge confidence booster. I think it just has to mentally make your team feel better going into that semifinals matchup. Now, do I think it's going to be a good 5 games? Absolutely. I think that game probably goes 4, if not 5 games. I don't think like the Bolts is going and like smack the Kings. I don't think it's anything like that. It's the same thing if Mambo makes it. I think either which way. I think if Mambo make it, it probably goes 4 games. Guaranteed. I take the Bolts in that matchup, and I don't know why. I think Riggs is shaking his head.
You're delusional.
I know I am, and that's okay. I do think it's a good game, though. I think we've seen flashes of both sides of that matchup throughout the season, where like Bolts have beaten the Kings and Kings have beaten the Bolts, but like the games look good. I'm just hoping that if Bolts beat Mambo, it gives them the momentum and the confidence to just carry that through. The bottom half of the bracket, I have Jade Dragons and Leviathans, and this is where the curse strikes the Jade Dragons, and they get eliminated by the Atlantis Leviathans. And I think this probably goes 4 games, maybe 5. Depends on who wins game 1. But I think Leviathans beat the Jade Dragons. I would probably say 3-1.
So you've got a Levi's Bolts finals.
I do. I got the old man dual lane finals, dude.
I mean, that if that were to happen, that would be some of the best script writing Hindu Man has done.
Yes, it is.
Where you've got Bara versus Zap in the finals for Worlds.
See, I'm saying
I don't
saying
think
all
that
this
would be a close set.
because he sent me the script.
Oh, did he know?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I was like, Henry, I need the script for this prediction, dude. I need to know. Do the Bolts have a chance?
I can tell you that the answer is no.
He wouldn't write that because he'd be like, no, Mambo's going to stomp them.
Yeah, you're asking the EU guy if they're going to make it past the EU team.
No, I think Bolts Leviathans is a very interesting final if that is to happen. Obviously, it could easily be Leviathans Kings, which I think is also a good final. But I think what makes the Bolts final interesting is like they gave up Haddix to Leviathans, had to go find a soul laner. They try to get Deathwalker. He says no. They get Baskin to say yes. Baskin hasn't touched the game in like forever. So they pick up Baskin, and now you have this Baskin Haddix fight, which has to be good. You have Zap versus Barracuda. That has to be good. My biggest struggle in that one is probably the mid lane matchup, because I think I think Venenu probably gets a little bit bopped in mid. Also the support matchup, like Rongu's just cracked, dude. Like that's just the way it is. I do think if that's the final, as much as I wanted to go 5 games, because 5 games is hype for a final, I think it probably goes 4 again. I want to say this is gonna
Don't tell me you've got Levi's. You don't tell me you've got
3-1 Levi's.
4-time.
Yeah. I want it to be 3-1 Bolts, because I think if Bolts win, I think Barracuda just like raise the hammer and is like, I'm out, bro. I'm done.
I mean, I respect your fantasy storyline of the Bolts, because not only, like you said, they didn't have a solo laner, they drop, or Haddix leaves. They try to get Deathwalker. Deathwalker says no. Then they beat Deathwalker to get to semis,
where they're at,
and then they win that. Then they get to finals where they face off against Haddix.
Yeah,
and
I think it had.
And wasn't it the Renegade boys when it was Jake and Barra who were struggling against Sanguinis, right?
Yep.
And there was always like the little rivalry that was going on there.
Dude, I'm telling you, I like Bolts 3-1, dude. That's what I'm saying. That's my prediction.
I mean, listen, the Bolts could show up. I don't think the Bolts are a bad team by any means. They're the Warriors to me, where the Warriors are just really hard to put your faith into.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
They will more often not let you down.
The great thing about me and teams that I like to root for is like there's always something wrong with them. Like that's why I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, because I like to watch my team just get beat for no reason. Because they just decide not to show up on a Sunday or a Saturday or 8:00 at night, whatever.
Yeah, being a Colts fan's fun. It's,
it's tough, dude.
While also living in Arizona and kind of supporting the Cardinals as well, like
that's also rough.
Team.
Dude.
Yeah, it's a fun time. So what did you say you have Levi's winning it?
No, Bolts 3-1.
Bolts 3-1. You're gonna lock it in. That's what
I'm
you're
gonna lock it
slamming
in.
that.
I'm gonna lock it in and be completely wrong. I'm so excited. I'm so glad there's
All
not a
right.
video with this one.
Yeah, no, we'll have to put our predictions in the Discord before the
Yeah,
tournament starts.
I'll have to go on like challenge. I saw someone make one on challenge. I need to go do that or something.
Yeah, I think JMac posted one that you can do. So
Alright,
I'll start mine. So
Yeah, let's see.
I've got my semis. Kings versus Mambo. I think that's a 3-1 Kings. Maybe a 3-0. I have really high hopes for the Kings. The last time we saw the Kings play on LAN, they looked really, really dominant. They had a really close set with the Levi's in the finals, but they ended up pulling out. And those are the kind of sets that previously they hadn't pulled out before. And like they had made it to the finals in every single LAN so far this year, but they lost in the finals. They come in second every single time. And then they finally win phase 3. And they kind of it's almost like they finally got over that hump. But then I have the little bit of the worry in the back of my head of, did they do it too soon? Like did they win before they should have, and now maybe they won't show up to this LAN? I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Kings still win. 3-1. I'll give Mambo a game. But I have a lot of faith in the Kings. I think the Kings are probably going to be the hungriest team. You've got Genetics, who's super hungry to win. Twig, you talking about cursed players. Twig is probably the most cursed player. But he keeps coming back.
Yeah.
Yarkor, constantly grinding the game. You got Variety, just staple of solo lane. He comes where he pleases. Harry Cummings, the Cumster, whatever you want to call him. He's gonna be there. And then you've got good old BMT as the rock of the team. I have high hopes for Kings.
Dude, BMT.
So I've got Kings.
I think is the MVP
Kings 3-1.
of the season. He's good, dude.
He has been the most underrated player, I think, in my opinion, since he was on Radiance.
Yeah.
And he got overshadowed on Radiance because that was like the quote unquote super team of, you had Adapting and Benji and all these like super high level players. I mean, like high name recognition players. And you had BMT, who was kind of like the one maybe that wasn't quite so proven. And I think he was the best player on that team when they had that team. And I think he's been probably the most consistent player to play since then. But he's not flashy, and he barely talks when he gets interviewed, so he's not going to get a lot of recognition.
Yeah.
And then, so I've got Kings going to the finals, 3-1. Oni Warriors versus the Levi's for me. My heart really wants to keep the Oni Warrior train alive. My brain is telling me that's really dumb. Why would you ever think that? That's a stupid idiot thought. The Levi's surely will win. But I'm going to go with my heart. I think Warriors 3-2. I think Warriors show up. I think it's going to go 5.
Dude, that would be
going to be a
wild.
hard-fought set.
That would be wild.
I think this is going to be the best set of the tournament. Is Warriors Levi's. Because then you get to the finals. Kind of like you've been referencing, TCU versus Georgia. I think Kings just absolutely take the Warriors outside and throw them in the dumpster and close the lid on them. And it's not even close. I think 3-0 Kings. That's your finals. Ooh. Captain Twig finally gets to lift the hammer. Genetics running his mouth because he thinks he should be MVP. But the MVP goes to Yarkor. And
oh my god, dude!
Is
what
a two-time Worlds MVP. He's the first player to win Worlds in 2 different roles.
That would be wild, by the way. If they win and Yarkor is MVP, what a crazy story. Going from MVP in solo lane last year to MVP this year in ADC would be wild.
I think it's gonna happen. I don't see that if that really ends up happening. If it's Warriors Kings, I don't think that set's gonna be close. If it's Levi's Kings, I would expect a really, really great set.
If it's Levi's King, I think it goes 5. I think it goes 5.
Yeah, I would expect it to go pretty similar to Phase 3 playoffs, where it went 5 in that set as well, and it was a really, really tight back and forth set.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking with my heart, and we all know that's the worst way to do it. But I'm gonna go for it because I can't let you be the only one that has a dumb prediction.
Yeah, that's true.
So I need to join you.
Dude, I'm
I
good
can't
at
leave
that.
you hanging on that.
I gotta believe at some point, that the Bolts are gonna show up at a LAN and do something. But it's like I told you, like
yeah.
I agree, like how you said, like if Mambo makes it through, I don't think Mambo beats the Kings. Like that's just the way it is. I don't have a justification for why. I just think like momentum wise, if you look at the Bolts on LAN, they've done it. If they get a huge confidence win round 1, which they did earlier in the year, like they were able to carry that through the rest of the LAN. And I think it goes a long way. But we'll just have to see. I'm excited for this weekend, even though I have stuff going on that's keeping me from being able to watch the games consistently.
I'm very excited. Something we didn't mention either is that this has happened before at previous Worlds where they have some sort of qualifying event or, whatever the last chance kind of thing that they have going in is. It's usually really close to Worlds, and the teams that have already qualified have had either a month off or a significant amount of time off.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, there's always one set where the team that has momentum, who's played recently, kind of comes in and kind of just surprises the team that's been sitting there for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the one that stands out to me is I don't remember if it was it Rival. I don't remember what name they were going by at the time, but it was like Trifecta versus Rival, or maybe it was Ghost at the time. And Trifecta came in, they had just barely qualified. It was like a Sino team, I think, with someone else. And they beat the PBM team in the first round. And it was like a big shocker. And then I think that was the SK Worlds run, I think.
I think so. I think it was that year. Yeah, the team that had the momentum coming out of the previous week. And like that's something that does concern me. That's part of the reason like I feel that way about that Bolts Mambo game is like I feel like Mambo's coming in with a lot of momentum, so if Bolts can like beat them, I think that works out that way. I don't think it affects the Titans set. It might affect that Oni Warrior set though with the Dragons for sure. If that was a set that it was going to really affect, I think it'd be that one.
Yeah, I think the top 3 sets are the ones where that maybe can come into play. I don't see the Titans didn't really have any momentum coming out of that playoff. They kind of barely qualified, to be honest. Like they didn't look that great.
No, they did not.
But like the Ravens have a little bit of momentum coming in. I don't think they're going to beat the Kings, but they might surprise some people. Mambo has probably the most momentum coming in out of all the qualified teams, and obviously that's not great for you.
No, it's not. But I think when no one wants to play you, that has to give you more confidence. Yeah. But I also think
not
that's
only
something
that, nobody picked them.
I think that's one thing that could be concerning though, is like, do they come in with too big of a head and have too much of an ego going into that first game? That could end up biting them, and we'll just have to see.
Yeah. So you heard it here first. I can't wait till I get back from Texas and I get to brag that the Kings beat the Warriors and how Blaise was wrong. Or vice versa, we record the next episode of Bot G when we're all back together, and
we're both wrong.
No, Blaise gets to sit there and rub it in my face because Barracuda's lifting up the trophy.
Oh my god, dude! I'm letting you know, if that happens, I'm wearing my my Stay Salty shirt for that episode. I will happily wear that.
He's gonna go right off into the sunset gonna go reunite with Jeff, and they can talk about their World Championship runs and stuff. And
dude, Jeff plays Marvel Snap now, and is like really good at it.
I mean, to be fair, who doesn't? Yeah.
Fun fact of the day. But no, I do think he just, after that, he's like, I'm just gonna record this podcast with Aggro and stream, dude. That's what I'm gonna do.
You think he's gonna join the design team like every other washed
he
up
might
does after
he might, dude. He might. I mean, that's not a bad idea by Hi-Rez in a lot of ways. It's the same as like sports, like when athletes retire, it's like, oh, let's hire them as analysts. Like they know a lot about the game and ins and outs. And I think Hi-Rez isn't dumb. Like, hey, let's get some pro players. Like their goal was to like find a way to bend the game to their will and get it to do what they wanted, and that's what they do. Like, you and I have both played against pro players through like different tournaments and stuff, I'm sure. And there have been times.
I got my ass kicked by Paul.
Yeah, me too. Fun fact. I did solo Aurora, which I do take pride in. I paid the price. I paid the price so hard when I got a 5-man, behind a rock killed. They just waited for me. But I deserved that. But there was a time where I saw Paul and I was like, oh, he's half health on hell. I have crit. Surely I win this fight. And I got instantly deleted. I did not get to play the game. And I was like, oh, I get it now. And that was a Titans roster minus Benji, and they had Freya in Benji's place, and we got bopped. And sometimes I think the game just bends differently for them. Like, it just works differently. They just understand it at a different level, it seems like.
Also, to go back to your, sometimes it's good to hire, former players and stuff as analysts. So yeah, it's also really good to hire them as your head coach as well, in the middle of the season.
Yeah. And then play games on Saturday. You look, okay.
Yeah.
Look, everybody's talking about how the Vikings came back that game. That doesn't matter. They're the first NFL team to beat a team on the same day as the last name of the head coach. That's what really matters.
That is what really matters. That's what ESPN will tell you. That's an ESPN star right there.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Oh, God.
Do you have any closing thoughts on Worlds? I know you're not going to be there in person.
No, I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. If it was in Atlanta, I had a plan. And when I found out I was in Texas, I started working on a plan. And I was like, yo, this is way too much to try to figure out with the kids and the wife, and trying to figure out the kids could stay with their grandparents. I was like, I'll be doing some watch parties in Discord throughout the weekend. I'm pretty excited to watch it. I'm excited to see what we have in store for Season X, and the new gods, because we didn't get one god this season, and we're supposed to be getting it, I believe, late this month, and then one next month as well, is kind of what they hinted at before. So I'm excited for new content for not just Smite, but the other high-res titles too. I know they're showing off stuff for DKO as well. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah. Just a fun weekend. If you're around in Discord, hit me up. I'll do watch parties in Discord.
Yeah, this will come out before the World starts, so Blaise will be doing watch parties. I'll be in person in Texas, so if you guys are there, let me know. We'll meet up. You get to meet the man, the myth, the legend that is myself. I'll try not to make you guys laugh too much. I don't want to, I don't want to take over your guys' experience. I know it's hard for me not to be the funniest person in the room all the time. But, no, I'm excited to meet everybody. This is going to be my first in-person Worlds. Get to meet Fro and the gang and Nev and Trevor and all them people that I play with all the time. So it'll be cool to finally see people in person, put a face to all the names, and just hang out with everybody and watch the Kings win. It's gonna be a fun time. So that'll do it. I guess I should do the thank yous. I forgot about this part.
Oh. Are they pinned somewhere?
Oh fuck. Is it pinned? Oh, it's not pinned.
It's not pinned. Oh god.
Okay, I'm not gonna do the thank yous. I don't know where Fro has them. But thank you guys to everyone that does Patreon. I don't have the list, but you know who you are. Appreciate you all. Thank
You're beautiful people.
Blaise, for joining me.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
Newly announced. Part-time co-host. Should I say part-time? I don't know.
Oh no,
Makes
probably.
it sound like you're not really.
I don't know.
I know you're not gonna be here all the time, but
I'm here when y'all need me. That's kind of what I was told, and I was like, cool, whenever. I can usually record on Saturdays unless track season. Sometimes that throws a ruffle in it, but yeah.
Oh yeah, when you have a 15-hour meet on Saturday.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah.
Those are fun, dude.
My favorite question of the year.
Coaching.
Yeah, my favorite time. Hey, how long's the meet gonna be, coach? When it ends.
Yeah.
15 hours later.
Bus to leave.
Yeah. 15 hours later, I'm going home. My wife's like, "How was your day?" I'm like, "It was great, but everything hurts and I don't want to talk about it."
And then they always get mad. Can I go home? That's my friend's mom right there. No, I legally can't let you go home with them.
Yeah.
Well, what they're leaving. Yeah, but that's not your parent.
Yeah.
You have to stay with us for. You have to be miserable. If I have to be miserable here watching nothing happening, you have to be miserable here watching nothing happening with me. All right.
Yeah. I run a lot, so that part makes it fun. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah, we'll save that for the your regularly scheduled. This is a special episode.
Special edition.
I will leave us there.
Bye.
Bye-bye.